Okay, welcome to the You're the Boss podcast. So exciting to be starting this off again after such a long hiatus. And I've got with me today a very interesting guest. His name is Jose Solera, and he is a consultant and coach in the leadership, technology, and project management space. So, Jose, it's so nice to have you here today. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Ange. It's wonderful to meet with you here and meet your listeners and viewers.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, so we're here to talk today about your experience in running a business, how you transitioned over from corporate life into running your own business, because that's especially what listeners are interested in here learning today, but also to learn a bit about your expertise in leadership and what our listeners can take away from um, you know, becoming leaders themselves in their business. So just start by just explaining to us what is your history basically? How did it all start and how did you transition? What
Great,
was that
great.
journey for you?
Well, I'm what do you call it, a corporate drone, if you will. I worked for corporations all my entire professional career. I'm back in 2007. We relocated from California to North Carolina in the United States. And at that point, I started thinking, okay, well, at that point, I was in my 50s, I guess. I said, okay, well, I want to retire at some point, but I don't play golf. I don't fish. I don't hunt. I don't play dominoes all day long. I need to do something. And probably because of the way the retirement plans are here, I need some extra income too. So I started looking, and happened to be that if I didn't, I had spent 23 years at Intel, and part of that I did leadership development. It was
Mm,
my background. When I West Point grad, so leadership to us is a big thing. And I started looking around and helping people at Intel. And it was good, but I also realized that management needed to want it, and so that ended up being a great experience. But it gave me the foundation. A friend of mine, when she found out I was moving here, said, "Hey, one of my professors from Penn State is there on a sabbatical at Duke, so you should meet them." And I met with them. Turns out that they introduced me to the company I ended coaching for. I'm still coaching for them, a company called
okay.
Delta Leadership. And you can Google them. They have their website up, deltaleadership.com. And I started coaching with them. So, and I did that, and I'm still doing it part time, but I was working full time. So, trying to time that properly. But my idea was let's figure out how do I set up a quasi retirement employment time that
Mm,
I can work 20-25% of the time. I don't, I don't have to do all the bureaucratic stuff. Uh,
okay.
so I started that. At the same time, I had been doing some workshops in California with PMI on project planning and execution, project acceleration. There's an approach that came out of Intel Semiconductor Design that gets you a plan for a complex or complicated program very quickly.
Hmm.
You can get it done in a day or two if you have the right people. While otherwise it would take weeks or months and not be comfortable to have a complete plan. So I used to teach on that, and then one of my attendees asked me, "Hey, Jose, can you come and help us plan this program that we have?" And I
Hmm.
did. And in the process of doing that, one of the first things I did, and this is what I'm going to say is true to the United States, by the way, disclaimers in the United States. I am not a lawyer. I am not a tax accountant. So
Right. Yeah.
whatever you hear from me is just my experience. And you
Yeah.
can, please consult your own lawyer or tax accountant, which is what I did. I set up a limited liability company
Hmm.
so that I could, various reasons. One of them obviously is protection, but also another one is that I also applied for a tax number from the government here so that I could receive income through the company and pay expenses through the company. So
Mm.
if you're considering going into business, that's one of the first things I would suggest you do. Obviously, consult your local laws and regulations. I used a lawyer, although
Hmm.
these days in the United States, there's a website, legalzoom.com, I think, that you can go in. I will do everything for you at
Hmm.
a much lower expense. But then again, I did this back in 2008 or so. So there
Yeah.
were not as many options. but I set that up. I went and did that engagement with that company in California. It went very well. While at the same time, I was coaching with Delta leadership. Most of the work with Delta was with Duke University here in the United States, their business school, Fuqua School of Business, and their executive leadership program. And that continues to be the case. So, um, eh, growing a business is interesting because in my case, most of that income is coming through Delta. So I have not marketed as much as I would have done if it was on my
Mm.
own. That's the area I'm trying to focus on right now, how to grow my own business so that I'm not as
Yeah.
dependent on Delta. A friend of mine in California who was a PMI said, Jose, you need multiple sources of income because at
Mm.
any point in
Mhm.
time you can be laid off and that's it. And it happened to me. So at the time in California, I didn't have that, but luckily I was able to secure a job quickly. But I
Mm.
said, I got to figure out how to do that. So,
So you went in quite intentionally after you left your job to not be in retirement doing nothing. You knew you had to have a purpose, I guess, right? Do
right.
something.
And just
Yeah.
continue doing what I was doing. Now,
Yeah.
Delta asked me, and I did it until about the middle of last year, to be
Mm.
their lead coach, organize, identifying potential coaches, making sure they
Mm.
got trained, and making assignments of the various clients,
Mhm.
programs that we had. So it's sort of it's a continuation of what I was doing part time.
Mm.
And I will encourage your listeners to, if they haven't started yet, to start it while they still have a job, so that
Yeah.
you have a little bit more safety in
Yeah.
terms of you're not dependent on your company.
Yeah.
So
That's what happened with me. I started my business 20 years ago while I was working part-time. And so just to have that safety net just in case kind of thing.
yeah,
But I think within 3 or 4 months, I had so many clients on the books that I could actually leave. So that made it very easy for me. So, but yeah, definitely don't quit your job tomorrow.
right. Well, and at no point while I was working did I want to just go on my own. I
Mm,
mean, to me there was value in working for a company and
right.
how that association. But everybody's different.
Yep.
So, which is why I didn't just work on marketing and selling to grow my own business. So I was lucky in that I have the source of clients that I didn't have to market on. So,
Right.
but I'm trying to, as I said, trying to work on that now.
Right. Did you have any challenges when you first started? Was there anything?
Imposter syndrome.
Okay. Okay. That's a big one. Yeah.
Yeah, so for those of you who are not familiar, imposter syndrome basically means that while you're highly qualified, you feel you're not, and
Yeah.
you undermine yourself. So
But with all your experience that you had for so many years, why do you think you had imposter syndrome? Was it just because it was a new role in terms of it was your business?
it was more a new role with a new client. So
Ah,
when
okay.
you engage with a new client, there's a lot of contextual information you'll have to somehow
Yes.
quickly acquire.
Right.
Who are they? What's their mission? What's their vision? Where are they going? Who are the power brokers? Besides what they tell you, what's underneath that may be relevant. Um,
Right.
so back in 2015, I became a chief information officer for a medical insurance company in California.
Mm,
I work remote. Well, I spend time in California, but I work remotely. Never relocated to
mm,
California. And they said, Jose, we need a CRM, customer relationship management system.
mm.
So I said, fine, I've done that. Okay, let's go do that. But as I started investigating and trying to figure out, okay, what's really going on here, turns out that while true they needed a CRM, the bigger pain point was processing insurance applications.
Right.
They, because of legal changes in this country, they receive almost 90+% of their insurance applications in the fourth quarter of the year, October through
Mm.
December.
Whoa. Okay.
It needed to be processed very quickly with certain quality levels and all that. So I said, okay, sure, we need a CRM, but we need to focus on that. But
Mm,
that's it came about in that sense making that understanding the context, which is true even if you're just consulting or coaching.
Mm.
You need to get a sense of what's really going on, and that's why in our engagements, depending on what it is, we like to have an assessment phase up front to just
Mm.
over as much as possible what is going on,
Hmm.
um, rather than just have a client say, "Well, come and coach us in leadership." I say, "Yeah, we can
Yeah.
do that, but I think we can
Hmm.
do a lot more if we
Yeah.
understand the context of what's going on."
So it's like you really show your value as a consultant then in that sense when you can come in and say, yeah, we see what you've got, but we think you need this as well. So, you can put them in a much better position, right?
Well,
Yeah.
in more than we see what you want, and we can help you a lot more rather than
Yes.
buying.
Yeah. Yeah. You've got to give them what they want as well.
Yes, definitely.
So how did you get your clients after like how did you get enough clients to keep you going?
Well, again, most of my clients have come through Delta Leadership. So,
Mm.
and I have the luxury that while I'm retired, my retirement income allows me not to have to look for a full time level of income.
Mm.
So, I'm not swimming in money, but it makes it somewhat less stressful. I mean, to some extent, that's good and that's bad in that it hasn't forced me to try to grow my own business.
But it's
So,
also good, I think, because I fell into this trap as well. And I think it's something that's useful for people to realize and to know that it's your business, so you're in control of how big you want it to grow.
mhm,
So it doesn't have to be big. It can be just enough. And when you actually work out how much money you need, and then you work out actually maybe it's not that much, you
right.
can release some of the pressure and just build a business that's comfortable for you to run. So I ended up at one point with my business where I had 10 staff under me and the overheads were crazy. And I was like, I didn't sign up for this. I didn't want to do this. I just wanted to work from home, which didn't work out at that point. But I've built my business now since to do that so that it fits within my lifestyle. So you've kind of done the same. It fits within
Exactly.
your retirement lifestyle. So you still have quality of life. You still
Right.
enjoy
Right.
yourself.
I don't want to have a company with more than one person, me.
Okay.
If I need help, I'll subcontract it. I did it
Yeah.
about 3 years ago. We had to do a planning workshop with a luxury automotive maker.
Yeah.
And I contacted a friend of mine from Intel days who's an excellent facilitator.
Right.
And together we did the workshop online with 65 people in Zoom. And
Mm.
came out with a plan that that actually got them going into whether they were working, but they had 25 teams working independently.
Yes.
So they were not talking with each other. And
Well,
at the
this
end of
is the
the
business model you can have now with technology now just allows
Mhm.
you to do that, right? Which you
Right,
couldn't in the
right.
past, right?
Yeah, I think he was in Arizona and I was here. The client was mostly in California.
Yeah.
And so we did the facilitation. And the value of what we deliver, which at times, and that's why I want your listeners to think about is what's the
Mm.
value? That's really what you're selling. So at the end of the session, the vice president of quality assurance said, Jose, for the first time, they're talking with each other and they're actually
That's good.
realizing the dependency that they have because I run projects and programs for a very long time. In my experience, things break in the boundaries between teams or between people.
Right.
It's very key that they talk with each other. So that's the beauty of that approach. But if I have more clients, if I need to grow more, I am not planning on having a staff. I
Yeah.
will
Yeah. You don't
put my
need to, I
patients
think,
in.
now
Yeah.
these days. Yeah. You just don't need to.
Well,
I think the
well
business.
and setting up a limited liability company with a tax ID allows you to make those payments. The
Mm.
United States issue a 1099 at the end of the year for tax
Mm.
reasons, and you don't have to. If you don't do it, it's much more complicated.
Yeah.
As an individual, you cannot issue a 1099, and there are other things that come into
You
play.
can leave yourself open to
Right?
all sorts of litigation and sort of stuff, and you
Yeah.
take all your possessions from you. Yeah. I mean, I
Right.
was told when I very first set up my company, I was the sole proprietor at first. So that was still it's just like a personal income, really. That's how it's
Hmm.
treated tax wise, right? Yeah, in Singapore, anyway. And
Yes, it is.
then I went to see a lawyer, same thing, about, okay, what should I do with my company? And he said, there's no downside to being a private limited company. You know, you're protected, just go and do it. So that's what I did. And it made a difference as well with the type of clients I got afterwards, because when they saw the private limited at the end of the name, I started to get bigger clients as well. So
Right.
that's
Right.
another advantage. Okay.
Yeah.
Can you
Yeah.
talk a little bit about the, like you mentioned how when you went in and consulted with this company and then the staff are actually starting to speak to each other and communicate in a way they hadn't. Can you speak a little bit about how important communication is in running a business? And if, you know, like people might not take on staff internally, but they probably will eventually need to um, have some staff remotely, right? How important is communication in being a boss?
Communication is the glue that enables anything that you want to do. I use a leadership development model called the 6 domains of leadership. Delta leadership has information, and that's where it comes from.
Yeah.
Um, while communication is not one of the domains, it is everywhere.
Yes.
So because there is, as a leader, you have a vision, but you don't communicate it, you don't have a vision.
Mm,
If as a leader you want to get to know your people, but you don't spend time with them and talk with them, you don't know them, and they don't know you, and they don't trust you.
mm,
So, if as a leader you want to, there's a need for your team to understand the abilities and limitations of what they can do and how they work with
mm,
other people, etc.
mm.
Unless you communicate, that doesn't happen.
Yeah.
So, and it is we as leaders tend to underestimate the need to communicate and the need to repeat ourselves in many
Mm.
cases. So I
That's a
was
good
running
point.
the year 2000 program for Intel, and we had asked the CEO to issue a statement to the company wide, saying, "Hey, year 2000 is important. While Jose's team is working on it, they will not solve every problem. They will only solve the major enterprise systems.
Mm.
You need to focus on your own things because everybody had their own little program, etc."
Yeah.
And so the message went out, and about 2 or 3 months later, we went back to the CEO, so we need to do it again. And he said, "Why? I just did it." And the answer that we gave him was, "Hey, listen, if it's not repeated, it's the flavor of the month. It'll go away. There
Uh-huh.
are too many other demands on people's plates in terms of what they have to do.
Yeah.
It needs to be reinforced. And yeah, maybe we'll phrase it differently so there's some newness to it.
Mm.
But at the end of the day, you need to have repetition. And in our research using the 6 domains of leadership, contextual leadership, which is one that addresses the fact that people need to understand how, who, what, where, why, etc.,
Mm.
is usually one that most leaders struggle the most with. And that comes down to a need to better communicate more.
Yeah.
Uh, and so there's no way around it. If you want to be a leader, you have to communicate. If you want to create the next big widget that solves the world's problems, you can do it on your own in your little private office. But unless you communicate it to somebody, nothing happens.
Yeah. I mean, that's the same with everything, right? And marketing is the same. If you don't communicate that you exist, you're not going to get any sales. So,
Well, when I coach clients, we use a survey, the 6 domains of leadership survey, and we tell them the survey is based on frequency of observation of a behavior. So the supervisor rates the individual and says,
mm,
how often do I see them do X, Y, or Z? Um, if and then when I coach people, I say the, the fact that somebody scored you as rarely, they rarely see you, doesn't mean you don't have the ability to do it. Just
mm,
as if they haven't seen you do it.
right.
So there are two pieces to any of these behaviors. One is you need to have the ability to do it, but two, you have to demonstrate the behavior, and you have
Mm,
to do it. You have to have the opportunity to do it. There are certain circumstances where if your boss is very much a top-down kind of person, you may not be able to exhibit certain behaviors of a
mm,
leader. You have to take that into account. But in other cases, it's because we're not as comfortable displaying that, and that all
mm.
comes down to communication. How do you know, and it's not just verbal communication; it's nonverbal too, like
Right.
looks way. People are watching you and seeing what's going on.
Yeah. Yeah. And how, if someone wanted to improve their leadership skills, how would you advise them to go about doing that?
Um, Leadership, if you Google it or search for it on the web, you're going to get millions, if not billions, of responses.
Right.
Leadership is one of those things that it's at times is difficult to define, yet is easily recognizable.
Hmm.
So, and you know, what you need to think about is okay. What the definition of leadership is: having the skills to be able to work with a team and communicate where you're going and have them work with you to
Mm-hmm.
proactively help you get there.
Right.
So, and I looked at a number of models, and I have an encyclopedia of leadership back in my bookcase over my left shoulder, which you're not seeing right now. And I couldn't, when I was doing this at Intel back in 2005, 2006,
Hmm.
I did not find a good model.
Hmm.
The six domains of leadership, which I learned about when I moved to North Carolina and engaged with Delta and Duke,
Hmm.
is probably the simplest yet most powerful model to understand the behaviors. It is not complete. There are other
Hmm.
models, such as situational leadership from Hirsch and Blanchard, that
Hmm.
are also very powerful, but those are they have their uses in their specific situations. So, if you want to learn about leadership, search of the six domains of leadership. And by the way, depending on the search engine, you may find a lot of other things that are not related to it. So the best bet is to go to deltaleadership.com
Hmm.
and take a look there. They do have there's a book that Professor Simsitkin and Alan Lynn, the creators of the model, published that's available there. There's a lot of other things out there. So the book is a little academic, but it's very good and thorough.
Hmm.
I also write a lot about
Hmm.
systems of leadership. If you
Yep.
go
I've
to
seen some of your
Jose,
articles
yeah, Jose
on
Solera, the
LinkedIn. Hmm.
medium.com, you'll see my writings there. It's not always about six domains. And actually, I need to write one today, and I'm thinking about AI as a coach. So
Nice.
because I can get an AI tool to actually do an initial assessment of a survey and tell me what
Mm.
it sees. So,
Okay.
which is really amazing to say the
Mm.
least. But anyhow, so go there. There are there are a lot of writers, a lot of things. John Maxwell has a lot of stuff about
Right.
leadership.
Hmm.
So be careful because sometimes the kitchen sink gets thrown into leadership definition. I don't know, that's a U.S. term maybe, but when I started researching leadership back at Intel, I realized that things such as strategic thinking and a lot of the management skills that are important are not necessarily leadership skills. They're all
Mm.
need to be there. And actually, if you talk to the professors here, they'll make a big difference between management and leadership skills.
Okay.
And leadership skills are really, how do you get people to do the right things,
Mm.
while management is more or less getting them to do them the right way.
Mm.
Both are extremely important as a leader, so you need to have them. So that
Mm.
academic distinction to me sometimes is not as relevant. But
Okay.
think about understanding leadership as a subset of understanding the behaviors that an overall manager slash leader needs to have with
Mm.
their people or their clients. By the way, we lead up, down, and across.
Mm.
And we lead at all times.
Right.
So even the little kid playing soccer, some of them will be leaders, and they exhibit certain behaviors.
Yeah.
Um, don't think that you cannot be a leader unless you have people working for you. That is
No.
not true.
I remember one time when my son was still in primary school, actually, and one of the notes that came back from his performance, and that was he's a natural leader.
Hmm.
And I think so he's obviously exhibiting those qualities just in the
Yeah.
classroom, right? So,
And you make a good point. There are people that are born with certain skills and
mm,
behaviors that make it easier for them
mm,
to be leaders, but it doesn't mean that no one else can be a leader.
right.
Leadership, to some extent, is an acquired behavior based on natural abilities, ideally, but not
Mm,
necessarily. So the classic, the classic analogy is playing basketball. You know, if you're Michael Jordan, I don't know if you know who
mm,
Michael Jordan was or
hmm.
is, but
Yeah.
he used to be a star in basketball.
Yes.
You have some natural abilities, height,
Yeah.
speed, agility, etc. That no matter how much training Jose Solera has, will never even come close to even 1/10 of 1% of his ability. But I
Mm,
can still improve.
yeah.
Same thing with leadership. Some people have the
Mm,
skills, and some people don't. But if you don't, and if you do, you can acquire and enhance them, and that's
mm,
why what something like the 6 domains of leadership allows you to learn about. So the six
yeah.
domains are they're shown in a pyramid,
Mm,
with the base being personal leadership, which
hmm.
means that the person is credible as a leader.
Right.
Relational leadership, which is in the middle bottom, which is it is the keystone of the entire model,
Hmm.
because that yields trust. You're trusted as a leader, and you trust
Mm,
them as people you work with. Contextual leadership on the far right, which is the one that gives you a sense of community, how we work together. And then
hmm.
in the middle, you have inspirational leadership, which helps your followers or your team members have high aspirations.
Mm,
While next to it, to the right, is supportive leadership, which makes them feel safe and allows them to
right.
take the initiative. Because it is very important, if you want to encourage people to take the initiative, that it is safe for them to do it.
Mm,
If it's not, I guarantee you, you will not have any inspiration in your team or any high
mm,
initiative. And then at the top is responsible leadership, which is
mm,
really being a steward of the organization, of the team, of everything, balancing long and short term, having high ethics, etc. That comes into play.
mm,
Uh, so, so that's the model. It's
mm.
simple, yet as you dig into it, the more you learn, the more insights you get.
Still
So
dealing with people, right? So,
I've been coaching using it for since 2008. What's that? 15, 16 years. And every time I do it, I learn something new.
yeah. Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. That's
So,
cool.
long way to answer your questions. How do you improve leadership? So, and there are programs out there that people can participate if they're interested. So,
Yeah.
Delta has some, Duke
Mm,
has some. Duke runs a week long Duke Executive Leadership program that's really taught by, excuse me, Delta Leadership that
mm.
talk about it. So, for a while they were doing virtual sessions during Zoom. I think they've stopped that because most people want to do it in person rather than Zoom. So
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I think it's a lot more fun when it's done in person and more
great,
effective, right? When it's done in person. Right. Jose, so thank you so much for joining me today. It's been lovely to have you on. I'm
great.
going to post under wherever this video appears. I'll post your links to your
Excellent.
LinkedIn and your website. But just tell us where they can reach you. You know.
The simplest way is Jose at Coach Solera, SOLERA.com. You can send me an
Mm-hmm,
email there.
mm-hmm.
You can find me on LinkedIn, https w blah,
Yeah.
blah, blah. You know that. It ends with Jose Solera.
Yeah.
Simple. I don't have a whole bunch of numbers. I became a member way back when before there were many other Jose Soleras.
Right.
So that's the other option. To follow me on josesolera.medium.com.
Oh,
And
okay.
then
So that's where you do your writing is on Medium,
that's right to
right?
my writing. I will usually post a brief blurb in LinkedIn so people
Mm.
see.
Then they
And
can
if
catch it
people are
from
interested and they send me a note, I'll add them to my mailing list, which
there.
whenever
Mm.
meeting will send me the article and I forward it then to everybody in
Yeah.
my mailing list so they
Okay.
get it.
Okay.
So
Cool. Okay. So I will put those links there so people can reach out to you. And
excellent.
so thank you so much for your insights today. It's been wonderful
You're
having you on.
welcome and happy to answer any other questions for you or from your viewers.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
they'll reach out to me.
Fantastic. Okay.
Great.
Thank
Thank you.
you.
Have a great day.